What's the most awkward thing that's happened at a sleepover? Our entire friend group and my poor friend Baxter, that seems like a fun name, watched as my science teacher got a BJ from Baxter's single mom in a hot tub from the window. We were 13. There are some things you can't unsee. Edit. Grammar. About 11 years ago. Sleepover with girls and boys. All lights are out for about 10 minutes. We have all settled down and gotten silent for sleeping. Then we hear a grown male voice clearly enunciate the word what. Now, let me be clear. This was not a child's voice. This was like hearing James Earl Jones say what. There was about a 10-second silence, and then one of the girls says, "Who said that?" Silence. Then one of the boys starts laughing uncontrollably. We turn the lights on, and he is laughing so hard that he's crying. Here we are all freaking out about some strange man in our room while we sleep, and he's pissing himself laughing. He finally calms down enough to tell us that it wasn't a person who asked what. He farted the word. His fart sounded exactly like the word what. We all cracked up. To this day everyone from that party still answers phone calls from each other with what? When I was 6 I watched Jurassic Park at a friend's house one night. Got so scared I demanded my mom to come pick me up and take me home. So I said I was sick. My mother did not believe me. So I shit my pants in my friend's living room on accident, so she would have to come get me. I didn't really go over to my friend's house that much after that. Fear can make a child crazy, especially fear of velociraptors. Damn. You purposefully shit your pants, so your mom would come get you? You play to win, don't you? Does a Boy Scout trip count? Well, if it does, here it goes. I was in BS in an inner city area. The older kids were dicks. Well, my first weekend trip my dad loaded me on goodies to share. I fell asleep and the older kids raided my bag and took just about everything. So it sucked, but whatever. I go home and tell my dad, and he was pissed but really composed, which was odd for my Irish longshoreman dad. So next month is my next trip and my dad made a big batch of brownies but told me not to eat any or share with my friends. He told me leave them in my bag like I did last time. Sure enough, I woke up and they were gone. And 3 kids were shitting themselves like crazy. Yup, my pop 6 lacks the brownies. He showed up that same morning to the campsite with another goodie bag for me to share. Never HQD my bag raided again. TL. Dr. Older Boy Scouts robbed my treats, so my dad literally made them shit themselves. I was out camping with a neighbor friend of mine when we were 14. I woke up hearing the shuffle of her sleeping bag. I asked her what she was doing, and without breaking a stride she said that she was warming herself up. Then I turned on the lamp and found her on top of her bag, naked and masturbating. She immediately stopped and pulled her sleeping bag up over herself, and she turned out the lamp. We sat there in silence for about 3 minutes. Then I said, "You can finish if you wanna." Apostrophe. "No, you ruined it." Apostrophe. We didn't speak much the rest of the trip. I once slept over at a friend's house. He was a bit older than me. This difference was where he had discovered masturbation, whereas I had not. Anyway, I heard his bed furiously rocking back and forth. I asked him what he was doing. He said he was doing push-ups. It was dark, so I took him for his word. So then I asked if I could do push-ups with him. Years later it all dawned on me. In about grade 7, I had a sleepover with a few friends. One of them started crying when we started watching The Simpsons because he wasn't allowed to watch it at home. We couldn't calm him down for almost an hour. Back when I used to pee the bed in 3rd grade, I fell asleep in my friend's bed during a sleepover at his house. I pissed the bed. It was awkward, and I never stayed the night at his house again. But what was most awkward was that when I woke up, he was sitting in a chair staring at me, waiting for me to wake up. Finally invited to a sleepover at a popular girl's house. Started my period and bled all over my PJs, which I borrowed from her, and her sheets. This same thing happened to me. In 9th grade I went to a friend from middle school's birthday. I didn't realize my period was supposed to start and bled all over their nice fancy couch-like chair. I tried to help clean up, but everyone was making fun of me, so I just called my dad, told him what happened and left. Edit. I wanted to thank everyone for all the support. I wish I had known about Reddit 5 years ago. would have helped me through a lot of stuff as a young teen. The day after the sleepover, my friend wouldn't let me leave, no matter what I did. Around 6 PM his dad finally said I should probably go home. Friend burst into tears, threw himself to the floor, and was begging his dad to make me stay. When I was 12 my friend Peter had a disco themed birthday party. No, I don't know why, at his house. The party being on a Friday, we all stayed the night. Being preteen boys with limitless cola, we ended up staying up all night and decided to watch the sunrise on his back deck. As we're looking at the majestic, slowly lightening sky, our peaceful moment is shattered by a shrill, screaming voice. Looking to the source of the sound we see his fat, topless, 50-plus-year-old neighbor lady yelling through her kitchen window that we are degenerate perverts. She was under the impression we were all staring at her. Once the yelling started we couldn't really help it, and that horrible image will be forever burned into my mind. I'm 29 now. Me and my friend slept in his mom's bedroom on the floor because she liked company since her husband passed away a few weeks before. Apparently when my mom came to pick me up the next day my friend's mom said I climbed into bed with her. I had no idea. Classic case of sleepwalking. Friend's mom walked downstairs to find 8 6th grade boys huddled around the TV watching porn. We instantly pretended to be asleep, and nothing was ever said after that. I still think of it every time I see her. Took the most wholesomely fulfilling shit in my friend's bathroom, and ended up flooding the bathroom at 2 AM. The parents had to clean up the entire mess. It was an awkward breakfast the next morning. 5 people in one room in their sleeping bags about to sleep and all I hear is a very slow fapping noise. We didn't find out who it was in the morning. I was about 10, sleeping over with a group of pals, including my buddy's little brother who was around 6. We finished up a few rousing games of Donkey Kong 64 and Hydro Thunder and all went to bed. Woke up to find the little brother standing ominously above me, butt ass naked except for a pair of Christmas themed tube socks on his hands and arms, and peeing into my half open sleeping bag. No more sleepovers at Ryan's house. Not really a sleepover. I was 23 at the time and drove to California to stay on a buddy's couch. I drank a bunch of beer after the long drive and passed out. Woke up having pissed myself on his couch. It is about 5 AM. I grab a towel and lay on it on the couch, resigning myself to being the guy who pissed on the couch for the duration of my stay. By some miracle the towel absorbed most of it. Him and his roommates woke up around 9 AM, and nobody knew a thing. Edit, except his cat. His cat knew. My friend in high school had the house where all of our friends would play Smash Brothers tournaments until our eyes bled, then go to sleep in his massive RV parked outside. I wasn't, and still am not, a morning person, so I'd usually be the last one out of the RV. One night, I fall asleep on the pull-out bed in my jeans and all, with just a blanket covering me. As I wake up, I'm still in that half awake half asleep haze, and I feel something rustling in my nether regions. I figure it's just morning wood, and go back to sleep. Then it happens. I feel it again. Wake up for real this time, and my dick is outside of my zipper, pants still on, blanket still covering, and as I look over, my friend is laying next to me, he and I being the only two in the RV, staring directly at the ceiling. I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt, and prayed he didn't just pull my penis out of my pants while I was asleep, so I packed up and headed home. Lo and behold, an hour later I get a text saying he was so sorry. He didn't know what he was thinking. Yeah man, you pulled my dick out of my pants while I was sleeping. I'm gonna need a little space. TLDR, my penis beauty rest was disturbed. Update, I've lost contact over the years after he went to a different college, but he's now in a happy relationship after he came out a year or 2 ago. The worst part of this story is until my girlfriend and I met, he was the only one, besides me, to have fondled my twig and berries. My friends were ruthless with those jokes. This was both awkward and kind of scary. I was 8 or 9 years old. My friend was having a birthday party and a bunch of us were sleeping over in the basement. The basement itself was pretty creepy, and we had spent much of the night telling horror stories until we eventually went to sleep at around 2 AM. We were woken up by one of the girls stomping up and down the stairs. She was yelling and crying. I can't remember what she was yelling specifically, but it was basically nonsense. It basically looked and sounded like she was possessed. A few of the girls started asking her to go back to sleep, and she basically just angrily screamed no and continued going up and down the stairs. Finally, she eventually stopped without a word and walked back to bed. Found out in the morning that she had been sleepwalking, and on top of it had wet the bed. She was really embarrassed, and we all felt really awkward at breakfast that morning. TL. Doctor friend woke us all up acting like she was possessed by some kind of demon. Turned out to be sleepwalking and peed the bed. Camping in the backyard with some friends when I had to pee super bad. I couldn't find the zipper to the tent to get out, and I was about to burst. So I ended up trying to pee through the mesh window. I don't know why. Well, peeing through mesh doesn't work very well, especially with terrible 9-year-old aim, and I ended up laying a pretty thick layer of atomized urine all over everyone else in the tent. In the morning it turns out one of my other friends was awake pretending to be asleep and saw the whole thing and told everyone it was me who peed all over everything in the tent. Dude was awake while he was getting piss all over him and said nothing. What the duck, man. Needless to say, I was not invited to another sleepover for quite a while. When I was about 7 or 8, me and a few friends were sleeping in a tent in my best friend / neighbor's front yard. His dad was a bit of an alcoholic. Quite similar to Randy Marsh actually. Anyways, his dad comes home from the bar, plastered, bursts into the tent and wakes us all up, saying we should all go up to the elementary school across the street. We go with him, the whole time acting like spies, avoiding all the lights, all under his drunk ass directions. We get to the playground, and he decides he wants to challenge all of us to a foot race. So we all line up. He yells Geo, and we all take off. Surprisingly, he kept up with us almost all the way to the finish line before he busted his ass, fell flat on his face on concrete. He also landed awkwardly on his arm, breaking his wrist. Was awkward at the time, but looking back on it 20 years later, it's quite hilarious. Edit. Woke up today to find I was given Reddit gold. Thank you, kind stranger. I was sleeping over at a friend's house after a party in high school. I shared a big couch next to this girl I sort of had a crush on and a couple other people. I was woken up to a tap on my shoulder and felt my massive boner pressed firmly against this girl. She did not reciprocate. Mine are all things that I did when I was in grade 1. I had a sleepover with my old best friend and her new best friend. I was jealous and felt left out the whole time. That night I wet the bed and we never hung out again. When I was younger, I used to puke if I ate eggs, even scrambled, and my friend's dad made eggs. I was trying to be polite and eat them, but I couldn't keep them down and ran to the bathroom right off the dining room to throw up his nice breakfast. Third one, and the most mortifying. I was at a friend's house and got my period. I was wearing a thong and she didn't have any tampons, just huge pads. So I tried to make it work anyway. The next day we were sitting on the computer and there were only seats for 2 of us. So I sat on the one girl's lap. After a while I got up and realized I bled through my jeans and all over her leg. She laughed her ass off. Thankfully, instead of being disgusted, her mom had me sit on a towel when she drove me home. I was sleeping over at my cousin's house. We stayed up and snuck out into the living room to watch Cinemax. It was after midnight, and back in those days, that was when all the titty flicks came on. One came on that my cousin was really into. He started touching his raging erection in his pajama pants, and then he let out a blood-curdling scream. Somehow he ruptured a vein or something in his peen. We had to go wake up his mom. She looked at it and decided we had to go to the emergency room. Our whole family still makes fun of him for that until this day when we get together. I was 10 I think, and it was the first time I stayed over at this kid's house. Well, we go to sleep at like 2 or 3 am and all seemed well. Then suddenly his drunk grandfather charges in the room and gets the poor kid in a headlock and drags him to the floor. Oh, and he was naked. I guess he suffered from PTSD or something. I kind of ignored the whole event while it was happening and did not acknowledge it the next morning. I did not go back again. My friend's dog woke me up with his tongue in my mouth. One time I was over at a friend's house for his 11th birthday. It was myself, the birthday boy, and 3 other guys. We all slept in our sleeping bags in the basement. At around 5 AM, we all awake to find Jake yelling at the birthday boy Derek. The reason? Derek thought it was funny to take a piss on Jake's face while he was sleeping, and Jake freaked out. Jake walked out right after that, while the rest of us stayed up and called our parents around 7. I went home around 8, and in that time, Derek was still trying to play it off as funny. Derek lost 4 friends that night. My friend sitting next to me saw a kid shove a Lego axe up his butt in the middle of the night while he thought my friend was asleep. I was in 4th grade and sleeping over at my best friend's house. I wet his bed and then clogged their toilet with a massive dump. I didn't know what to do, so I shut the lid and ran into their garage to hide. How'd that work out for ya? He's still there. Shouldn't have given his position away. Please subscribe and leave a like if you enjoyed this video and if you want to see more of Reddit Universe.